Hello everyone, welcome to a new video in the Soul series. In this video, we're going to set up the character, but we're going to make it a bit more interesting. So we'll have the actual character select, where you can customize the character. I'm using Infinity PBR and we'll even be using Blendshapes to customize the character in the menu as well as select those classes we set up in the previous video. So let's get started. So here we are in our project, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of prefabs. Now, if you're not using Infinity PBR like I am, that's okay. Just make sure you also have at least one prefab set up. If you are going to do male-female like I am, then make sure you have two of them set up. So I'm going to drag in human male and human female. And if you use HDRP like me and you're wondering like, hey, why is his hair not pink? I'm going to show you that straight away. So all you really had to do here was go to AV, and instead of the standard hair shader, select the hair shader that is applicable. And then automatically it will be correct. Now I turn on alpha clipping as well with a threshold of 1. And yeah, there we are. The second thing I did was the variation. I turned that off, and there's a good reason for that, is because we'll have a color picker in our character select menu that will basically allow us to change the hair color. That hair blend is going to make that all a lot more difficult, basically. So yeah, that's why we're doing it. Let me align these. Now I'm picking male, female. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on these characters, disable for now at least. Disable all of the clothing except for underwear, because they don't have to be nude. So we'll just disable everything except for underwear. I'm going to unpack these as well, so both of them. So let's unpack. And yeah, I'm going to rename this to just human male. There we go. And human female. And we have the hair drop down here. We have the human wardrobe. Now, I'm not going to turn that off, but basically, he'll be left without any clothing. I'm just going to select everything here, on and off, and there we go. So it's the same model, he just has his pants on. I want to keep this video nudity free, so we're going to keep all of their underwear on. And yeah, I think this should be it. And there we go. Male, female, and yeah, we're pretty much done. Now the cool thing, once we investigate these prefabs, and there's a reason I picked these prefabs and not just a model, is because we have some things pre-set up. Loads of different things here, and one of the most interesting thing definitely is going to be muscles and other blend shapes. So let's make that a bit bigger. And as you can see, we can change the muscle density. Oh, sorry about that. We can basically change a lot. Just going to set this back to 0. Yeah, there's loads of things, and there's also loads of face customization, which is also really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, we can basically change change so much. It's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie. This is some really good stuff that they made. So you can change fatness as well, for example, which is really cool. I'm not going to pretend it's not. It's really awesome. Now, because it's so cool, I wanted to make sure that we had the ability to impact that ourselves. It's such a cool thing that it would have been a waste to not be able to use that at all. So we will. So custom action is going to be in the description, which will allow you to basically change the blend shapes for these characters. Obviously, watch the video. We're going to set it all up. But yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. So first things first, we have these models, and you know, we can predefine the haircuts, for example, that are on here. I'm sure there's loads more in here. If you have the same packs I did from the Humble Bundle, there's so much stuff. I'm not going to mess around with it too much for now, so I'll just keep the default haircuts for both, and then we'll start looking at how you can actually customize that, which obviously is really cool. I'm also going to, this is, you know, really cool. I'm not really sure why it's here by default. I'm also going to remove these for now, and yeah, I'm going to remove these as well. And that same Magic Courage. Now the other things I'm going to remove are everything we don't need. So Audiosaurus gone, Audio Manager gone, Human Demo Model Script gone. We're going to keep the Blendshapes Manager and the Preset Manager, and we're going to do the same for our other character here. And there we go. So yeah, that's it. You don't have to remove any of that. If you intend to use those, you know, go ahead. Then what we're going to do next is create a new folder, which is going to be our own prefabs folder. So this is where we'll store the prefabs we are creating. So male and female. There we go. And we can remove them. Now when it comes to armor, I know that's part of the character selection as well. That when you select a class, it will by default choose you know, the default armor character is using. We're going to skip that for now, as we'll address all of that in the inventory video that's later in the series, and we'll go back to adding those in the character select as well. But basically we have to set up the entire inventory system for that to actually work. Hence, you know, not doing it right now. Cool. So yeah, that's basically it for the character prefabs. Now, one of the other interesting things we're going to do is already set up some basic movement, which is going to be running and dashing. And we're going to set up the default state of the character, so that includes the animations. I'm going to do that first, so let's get started with that. And one of the nice things here is that for the first time I've actually managed to make my whole default setup of, you know, running, stamina, all of those things a lot more efficient than what it used to be. So much more efficient, so many less actions, and when it comes to less actions and less triggers, that means it's less prone to break. Now, obviously, we need to double check that we still have the stats on the player model. We still do, so that's great. Then we're going to create a new empty here, which is just going to be movement. Let's actually add that camera motor as well, just so we can actually test this out. There we go. I'm just going to keep it the default. With a target offset of 1.5, going to turn off zoom, and yeah, that's it. So when it comes to movement, we're going to add a new trigger inside of this folder. There we go. And these will be the run triggers. So let's remove the sphere collider. We have one trigger here, which we'll keep, which is a on start trigger. So this will regen our stamina. So we'll get to that in a bit. And we're going to add another trigger, which is basically going to control the entire running, consuming stamina, stopping, running, etc. And we only actually need one trigger for that. And in the past, I've used, I don't know how many. Took a while to make this efficient. So quite happy I got there. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. So another set of conditions. I'm going to rename these. So these will be on start conditions. It's always easier to just find them in that sense. And run conditions. There we go. Cool. So when it comes to the run conditions, we're also using while key down. I'm choosing shift, by the way, left shift to run. If you want to use another button, just use another button. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to have a couple of conditions here. So we're going to relate to that attribute value of stamina that we created in the previous video, and value is greater than 0.5. We're going to not do 0 because there will be some regenning as well, so we need a small threshold. So yeah, we're going to do 0.5. Then we're going to add the actions, and we're going to add else actions as well. So we'll start off with the property. There we go. Change property, and then can run. Going to copy that over and paste it in else and turn it off. Then what we're going to do next is we're going to call our attribute again. So change attribute and stamina. Going to do subtract, and we're going to try at 0.6, which is kind of my default. I'm not sure if that's going to play well with the new values we created in the previous video, but you know, we'll see. And next up, we're going to do 0.01 as a weight, and we're not going to do restart. We're just going to do call conditions, and we're going to drag in these conditions. Then we're going to add one more condition to this, which is keyboard, and then look up that same left shift again. There we go, and being pressed. And that's it. That's it. That's all we have to do. Then for the onStart conditions, I'm actually going to copy this over. This first condition on stamina. Going to paste that. So less or equal to, well, not value. Let's do percentage, sorry. Less or equal to the maximum. So, you know, the action will actually stop. So that's the reason for this condition. So that it won't infinitely keep running in the background. Once it's full, it's full. And then we're going to do attribute again. And these will be pretty much the same action, so stamina, but instead of subtract, we'll do add. I'm going to choose 0.2. We're going to try this out, and you know, let's just see how it goes. A weight of 0.01 again, and then we're going to do the same call conditions. And basically what this does is it does the same as restart as an action. But when you choose restart, it's just going to restart these actions. It's not going to recheck this condition. And that's why we do call conditions. It's going to do the exact same thing as restart actions, but it will call on these conditions again in a loop. And if those conditions are no longer met, then it's going to stop. And that's it. Cool. So those are our actions and triggers. Now, obviously, we also need to make sure that the player can't by default run, because otherwise it wouldn't really work. And we're going to try this out. So let's have these stats open. There we go. So by default, we're walking. Cool. I'm going to hold shift, and I keep holding shift, so as you can see, it's struggling because it's trying to regen, but consuming is faster. So basically, we're not actually running anymore. Letting go, it's regenning. Maybe the regen is a bit fast, but you know, that's up to what you want, really. If I let go, and we go back to walking as well, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So we don't need any additional triggers, and I can't believe it took me this long to figure out that we didn't need any additional triggers for this. It's much simpler setup than what I did before, and yeah, less prone to error if there's a need for less triggers. So quite happy with this. So that's the run triggers, and next up we're going to do a trigger for dash, which is going to be the rolling animations. So let's remove that sphere collider, and we're going to do a key on, key down. We're going to do I'm going to do left control. You can pick whatever control button you want, obviously, and these will simply be the dash actions. So, character dash. I'm not going to fill this in. I just want to see. I think impulse 3 is enough. We'll just try it out, and I just kind of want to see what what's going to happen without this, because normally I just drag in animations, but I think it should pick them up from the state. Might be wrong. Let's have a look. Yeah, and we have a roll. Now we're going to adjust impulse and drag based on the animations anyway. But yeah, it's yeah, we can roll. Cool. So yeah, we have the roll animation, and we can run. Pretty sure you can select it both at the same time as well. We don't have any stamina more anymore, do we? Nope, we don't. It's going to refill, and yeah, we can roll as well. Cool. So yeah, that's basically it. So we have running, we have rolling, and yeah, we're pretty much covered. So next up, we're going to create that character select menu. Now, normally I just do this in the same scene, but the whole point here is to actually have a separate scene that will be our menu, where basically inside of that menu, we select all of our values, we get a preview of what it would look like, and then once we've done that, all of those values will be saved, and then once we open this game scene, all of those values will be loaded. So let's actually do that. So let's create a new scene here. I'm going to call this O2 character creation. And if you're wondering why I'm picking O2, basically I know I'm going to do a scene above it, which will be, for example, main menu, and most probably also a title screen, which will be 00. So 02, pretty good guess. So in here, we're going to first start off with a plane. And I know this is a UI part, and I do get that. But we're going to start off with a plane, and we need some lighting here as well. And we basically need 2 characters. And don't get me wrong, there's several ways to do this, but given the complexity of some of the things we'll be doing in this video, it actually makes more sense to have 2 characters here. So character 1 and 2. So we'll rename this to character male, just for simplicity, and female. Let's turn this around. And actually it does make more sense to have them facing the light. There we go. Let's create a new folder here. And we'll name this O2 materials. Because yeah, I do want a different material here, so we're going to create one. And please be aware that when it comes to materials, transparent. When it comes to materials, there is definitely a difference between render pipelines. So yes, do keep that in mind. And the material I'm going to use is going to be on this plane, because I want the plane to be transparent. So the plane needs to be completely transparent. So transparent, and we're going to drop this. There we go. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is that it's not actually transparent. There's still some reflection going on, and even if we completely boil down smoothness, we still have some reflection. Then we turn off preserve specular lighting, and suddenly it's completely transparent, and that's what we need here. So for the male, we're going to drop in the male, and for female, we're going to drop in female. That was an easy guess, of course. Perfect. So that's off with the start. Now keep the one you want as the starting point as enabled. So no matter which one you prefer to have as a starting character, honestly, it doesn't really matter. It's just so we actually have a starting character once we open up our scene here. So next up, we're going to add a camera motor. There we go, camera motor. There we go. And the camera motor is going to be a fixed camera, so no movement. Now I'm pretty sure that, I'm not really sure how it's going to work here. But yeah, so this is our preview. In built-in render pipeline, this looks perfectly. Unfortunately, it doesn't it doesn't work perfectly in HDRP. So I'll be honest, this is kind of a guess as to what. Doing a bit lower because most likely he will drop. And there we go. Then we're going to add an additional camera. And we can just actually use the main camera for this. No, we're going to use an additional camera. Sorry about that. Camera, there we go. So when it comes to the camera motor, it needs to be tied to the to this one. So I'm going to remove hook camera. Well, first camera controller, then remove hook camera. There we go. Hook camera and motor. There we go. No, that's the wrong one. Controller. That was it. Camera controller, and we'll drop in this one. There we go. So this will be the default look. Now this camera needs what is called a render texture, and that's a UI element. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new folder yet again. UI. There we go. And we're going to create a render texture. Now what a render texture does, it allows us to basically render what the camera is seeing on a texture in real time. So character creation in real time, and it will then be able to output that in a raw image in a UI element. So if you're a bit confused, it's actually really simple. You just drop this in. There we go. Now this by default has an incredibly low resolution. So we're going to set it to 1080 by 1080. And I'm going to apply anti-aliasing to this as well. Perfect. So yeah, we can, just for the sake of it, actually make sure that the main camera is actually set to the same values as the camera motor, so that when we then display this one, it shows us exactly what it's doing. So yeah, pretty cool. So this is just a start. I'm aware of that, but we have our two characters. We have our invisible plane to make sure the characters are not falling, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So now it's time to separate these, just for convenience sake. So I'm just going to do a separator here, which is just an empty, and then we're going to add our canvas. Now with canvas, I always do a scale with screen size, and I pick 1080 by default. It would actually make sense to already do 4K by default, as that's going to be your maximum output. It's just easier to do 1080 for the purpose of this video. So, but yeah, anyway, it will scale and it will remain looking good. So wouldn't be too worried about that. So there we have our canvas. Obviously our canvas is really big. Make sure gizmos is turned on, because if you keep gizmos off and you select something else within the canvas, you won't see the outline, which makes it really difficult. So be sure that you turn on gizmos. Otherwise working in the UI is pretty difficult. First element here is going to be a background image. Going to do stretch, of course, but already resize it either way. There we go. And it's going to be, like this. I do want to mention here that I'm really not going for design here. So it would take up too much time. It's not worth it for the video. Later on, I will improve it just for the sake of this series. But that's just going to be UI design. I'll leave that up to you, because I highly doubt you want what I'm doing here anyway. So this is going to be our top banner. I'm going to keep that black. There we go. I'll rename this to top banner as well. Perfect. The top banner is going to have a little icon, which for now I don't have yet. Doesn't really matter. Again, you won't be using the same one anyway. So minus 890. There we go. Top banner is going to be a stretch like this. That way we can be sure that it will stretch along. It's quite important. And stretch at the top. It needs to be aligned to the top. Perfect. Yeah, so that's cool. Then next up, we're going to have what basically will become our let's add some text as well, explaining what we're doing. So we're going to add some text here, just like this. Perfect. I'm going to turn on disalignment, overflow, and overflow, and that's just for scaling, just to make sure that if the UI takes on a different size, different resolution, it's not going to disappear because it no longer fits in the wrap. So character creation, let's make it white for now, and let's turn up the size 40. That's fine. Cool. This image, I'm going to make it 80 by 80, because shouldn't take up the entire thing, and this will become the icon later on. Cool. So that's it for the design part. Just doing this for just some consistency with other UI elements later. So then next up, we're going to introduce some panels. And the first panel, and I'm going to turn off stretch here, by the way. Going to do it like this. So when it comes to stretching, it will stretch on this axis. It will be aligned like that. But that's pretty much it. It's going to have that size, which should be 500. Let's make sure it is properly aligned here. Cool. And then the top banner has to go above that, obviously, because otherwise it wouldn't look good. But yeah, 500 is a good size. Then what we'll do next is we're going to duplicate this one. Keep this on this side. And, change the alignment to the opposite, of course, because it's on the right corner. Again, needs to be below the top banner. So this is going to be panel options. This is going to be panel details, which we won't be using for a while. That's just for some customization options we'll have later. And we need one additional panel, which is going to be here, which is going to display that character. So let's do another panel. I can just actually duplicate this one, details, and just put it in the middle. There we go. Alignment, again, it's middle in this case because it's in the middle. And there we go. So we basically have 3 panels, and this is where we'll be displaying the character. Now, it's a lot more prominent than is done in the Dark Souls 3 at least. So we'll be diverting from that UI design. Again, UI design is completely your choice. So I'm just doing something that works well for me. So yeah, this one will the background is we don't need a background actually, and we're just going to be adding a raw image here. There we go. And the raw image should stretch the entire panel. No, it shouldn't actually. Let's give it a certain size so that it would actually fit. And then we're going to be adjusting the render texture to that. So 1080 high, of course, it should be 1080 high, and width is 920. Now that's quite important. Yeah, that's quite important actually. We need to drop this in, so this is going to be, and as you can see, it does impact the render texture because it's no longer in a perfect proportion. So there we go. It seems a bit off. If we press play now, it will display just fine. Perfect. So it is actually zoomed in just a tad too much. So when it comes to camera and camera motor, I'm selecting both because they have both the same location. I'm going to zoom out a tiny bit, do it a tiny bit like this, and yeah, that's about fine. Cool. So here we have our character. It's actually not properly in the middle. It's actually bugging me a bit. Sorry about that. Okay, that should be better. Cool. That's a lot better. Now, as you can see, we do have this color background, and there's a bit of a thing here. So if you are using a built-in render pipeline, it's actually incredibly easy. So you just change this to color or none, and it will look perfect. As you can see, unfortunately, it just doesn't really work like that properly in HDRP without changing some of the settings, which is it is a bit annoying. Some of the post-processing settings can actually help us with this. So we will do that at some point. If you want to, but yeah, there's not much we can do here, just by default. But yeah, anyway, again, this is not about design. Let's just head back to our canvas now. Cool. So first things first, we need some options here, and we're going to drop those in our options panel. And the first one, I'm going to drop in an empty here. 100 high is completely fine with me. There we go. Perfect. And the first one is going to be name. And as you might guess, this includes a name. So we're going to do UI text. There we go. Make sure it's properly aligned. And then when it comes to the text, let's try 24. Yeah, that's big enough. I'm okay with that. Cool. And then the text will be name. And then we're going to do game creator UI and input field. And it's going to mess up the positioning. It's a bit strange. Don't really have a proper explanation for that. But yeah, anyway. There we go. Make sure it's aligned in the middle. The entire input field. Perfect. And I'm going to do 80 high. Maybe 80 is a bit much, isn't it? 60 high. Yeah, 60 high is fine. Let's make it a bit bigger. Perfect. Now, when it comes to the both texts, I'm going to do a lot of the formatting the same, so I'll select both of them. So 24, and then there. And basically, you know, this will output the name we're picking, and we need that to be stored in a variable. So let's create that variable. I'm going to add a new class here. So creation. I'm going to pick yellow for that, and then creation name. It's going to be a string. That's why I picked yellow, because most of them will be strings. And yeah, that's it. So value is going to be nothing for now. So it's just going to be empty. And that's going to be input here. Now, I want this to be saved as well. It needs to be a saved variable. And let's actually give this a go. So hit play. So we have our character, cool. Enter text is going to be RVR, and it's now stored in the variable. And if we save the scene at the end, it's going to be saved as well. And that's it. That's the name. Cool. And the reason why we do name, for example, is for dialogue options. You know, in a dialogue, we want the name to be the name the character, the player picks. Sorry about that. Cool. So that's it for name. Then we're going to do our next option, which is going to be gender. And we don't need the input field. I do want to align the buttons to the input field. So again, game creator UI button. It's again going to be completely outside of that for some weird reason. And yeah, you know, we have a button, and I want them to be matching pretty much. So the input field is so let's say 140. That leaves a bit of space in between, so that's fine. So 140 for the button. I'm going to change that text to male. 24 as well, just like everything else. At least some consistency in that sense. And there we go. Now, before I create the second button being female, obviously I'm just only doing 2 genders. You can add, as much as you want, but Infinity PBR only has 2, so we're keeping it at 2. So yeah, male, and then we're going to set some actions. So set active. It's going to be the character male. Now, I know that's turned on by default, but if we switch to female and then want to switch to male again, we need this action basically. So that's why it's important. And then the second is going to be again a variable option. So preferences, and this is going to be gender. This is actually call it the same. Game object, creation, and gender is going to be here. And that's going to be storing the prefabs we are using. So male. Well, by default, I'm going to leave it to male, so we always have one actually. That's actually a good thing to do. So just store one prefab. The reason for that is that once we go to the other scene and we're going to be loading all of these values, we don't need to go to this scene first to actually input those values. So it's good to have a default option there. So then we're going to do game object. We're going to go to variable game object. What we're doing here is we're actually storing the prefab we want into that variable. So really simple. Once we select this, just for this, character creation UI scene, we're going to display a model, and then we're also storing the prefab we're using for that model into a variable. Then we're going to have our, let's just name this button male. we're going to have our second one, which is button female. Going to align that with the input field, just because it looks better. Let's just name this female. And as you might have guessed, here we need to, well, do the opposite. Turn on the other character and assign this to our global variable, and that's it. So we can remove input field now. Let's actually make sure it also says female. And there we go. So we have two options. Again, I want to make sure this actually works. So cool. So we're going to open up our preferences here and put these on the side, just so we can actually see the variables going into action as well. I think that's cool. So RVR, yay, name's working, male, female, and yeah, okay, it's a slight mistake. We forgot to turn off the auto model at the same time. However, the most important part is the variable being stored, and that's working just fine, because that's what we're actually going to be using in the game itself. So cool, really nice. So let's make that small change. So let's duplicate this and drag in female, turn that off. And on this one, duplicate this, drag in male, and turn that off. Cool. So that's working as well. Then next up, we need. I know this Dark Souls has age as well. I'm not sure if that's related to mature content being showed in the game. Could be. I never really took a look at that, to be honest. Personally, I don't really see I'm not going to do that. Simply put, doesn't have much impact on rating anyway, because if it contains mature content, it's going to have a mature rating anyway. So I don't know if that impacts things like nudity or gore. No clue, but I just don't see the point in age, so I'm not going to use that. Then next up, we're going to do class. So let's do class. Oh, should change this. There we go. And for class, we want there to be a. We actually want there to be a input, not an input field. It has to be a button actually. Yeah. So going to remove this one. I'm going to look up the size of the input field here, because I just for the sake of it, I know this wasn't about UI design, but I would actually prefer to at least be aligned just for the basics. So there we go, and perfect. And what we're going to do here is select class. And for select class, we're going to copy over the input field placeholder text properties. So copy and paste component values. That way it looks the same. And then, sorry, I should have done that. Select class. And we're going to use the same concept, basically, of having like a placeholder. I think that's cool. I think the placeholder has 10, 7, 10, 6. So 10, 7, 10, 6. There we go. We'll name this placeholder as well. And yeah, this is actually pretty cool. It just looks nice. Not necessary. And then what we need to add next is a game creator UI text variable. There we go. Let's make this the same. Spread as well, and let's just do those 10, 10, 7, 6. That's all fine. Cool. So yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Needs to be the same size text. Now for some reason that's by default white compared to other text. I'm not sure why. So let's make sure it's actually the same. Again, going to do the whole overflow. And it's going to need that variable. Now we already have that variable. That variable is class, and I actually accidentally removed that. So sorry about that. Class. So you should already have that. So again, apologies for removing that. I had to redo this video, so I went a bit overboard with removing some of some of the things. Cool. So yeah, class was saved as well. So again, apologies. So we already have class, so that's great. So all we really need to do here is in this text, it needs to display that class. Now we need to remove variable because it doesn't have to say variable before that. And by default, this is going to be turned off. And the reason for that is because we need to see the placeholder text. Once we've selected our class, the placeholder text is going to be turned off, and this is going to be turned on, showing us the class we're using. And obviously we can press on it again to select a different one, but yeah, it's a nice little touch. So let's make sure that the pressing the button actually does something as well. So right now, it's setting active this and turning off this, and etc., etc., and that's actually good. But it needs to do set active something, but it needs to select that here. So we're going to have a panel here, and so in panel details, we're going to have some options. And I actually do like, the spacing. So what I'm going to do is, it's a bit strange. I'm going to do a copy here of this. And in panel details, I'm going to paste that as a child. That's all fine. And I want it to be at the same height. So 166. Oh, perfect. So let's remove the text field. We don't need that, so we basically only need buttons. Let's make it 300 wide. The button doesn't need a placeholder text, just needs a normal text, so we can again just center this, change it back to normal, and turn on the opacity. And we can do, well, this is going to be the second one, because here we want to have the text just saying select. So it's going to be the second one, which was assassin, button assassin. Cool. And what this is going to do is we're keeping the set active because basically it's going to turn off the placeholder text and turn on no, that's the wrong placeholder text. So yeah, there we go. So it's going to turn off this one. I think I'm selecting a couple of the wrong things here. So this button is going to turn off this clause, this placeholder text, and it's going to turn on this text. So sorry about the confusion there. Too many. So let's just rename this to button clause. There we go. So button clause obviously needs to turn all of this on, and we'll do that in a bit. So we have placeholder. Let's just rename that to text, just to avoid any of the confusion. So yeah, it's going to do these things. So turn off those, turn on off the placeholder text here, turn on the normal text there. And in order for that text to display something, we need to do string and class, and that needs to contain our chosen class that we set up in the previous video. And yeah, that's it. So we have these basics now. So we can name this class, we can just name this assassin. Drag this up. This is going to be, this is actually going to be the first one. Knight. All of the same actions except for just, inputting a different variable value. There we go. We need 2 more of them. So let's copy this over. Well, that doesn't work properly with alignments. It's one of those weird quirks in Unity UI. There we go. So let's rename this to sorcerer and this to archer. Yeah, I might have overdone it a bit on the naming because it just means changing more things, but that's okay. And then it needs to input archer as well. And then this one needs to input sorcerer. There we go. Cool. So we have our options here. Now the last thing I would like to have in in here is just some text. I'm going to duplicate this once more. I'm going to put it above. There we go. The only thing here we need is an actual text value. So we're going to keep that, remove the button itself, and the text will be select class. This can be a bit bigger, so 30, and let's make it bold as well. And there we go. So this will be our class selection. Obviously, UI design, do whatever you want. And we're going to give all of this a new parent. So create empty parent, and this will be class details. There we go. And in class options, that is what the button is actually going to do. It's going to set active class details. Class details. Where is class details? There we go. Cool. Now the last thing it should do as well when pressing these buttons is actually turn off class details. So let's actually copy that over. And I forgot about that, and add it to every single button. So there we go. Turn it off. Turn it off. There we go. Now class details can be closed, and let's actually have a look. Again, let's have those preferences open and actually have a look if it's actually inputting all of the value we want it to input. Cool. So name, male, female, and as you can see, it's working. If you don't want that to happen, we can just turn off foot IK by the way on the characters, and it will prevent that from happening. And then next step, when it comes to select class, we'll have the options here. Going to input knight, and it should have input knight here. Only thing we need to change here is the alignment. Press it again, and we can change it again to something else. And perfect. So completely functional, really cool. Again, I already know that in the previous video I had night. Again, apologies for removing that when I redid this video. Cool. So we have all of these values, so that's really good. Just storing night as a default, so you know, in the other scene we actually have some input. When it comes to showing the details of these classes, when it comes to stats, I'm going to add that later to this video. We're going to create that once we do some more menu work later on in this series that allows us to upgrade our stats, and we'll just literally copy over that information to this scene. So for now, it's not going to display those details, but we're going to add that later. So yeah, the only thing here, you know, make sure the alignment is correct for this text. Cool. So now we have name, we have gender, we have class. The big thing that is missing is obviously going to be some customization. Now, what is missing as well, by the way, on class is obviously their inventory items. So class, next to doing some stats, obviously, is also responsible for the default loadout. Again, default loadout, I'm going to leave that until we finish the inventory part. Once we've set up our inventory, I'm going to you know, go back to this scene just to set up some you know, equip actions, and that's it. So that's actually a really easy part, but it only makes sense to do that once we're actually doing inventory. Cool. Now comes by far the biggest challenge, which is going to be character customization. And I'm not talking about, you know, selecting a different character model. We are going to change blend shapes. We're going to change hair color, eye color, skin color, all of those things. And yeah, that's a whole lot. It is going to be really challenging. But yeah, we're basically going to do all of that. So pretty exciting. So to start off, let's make sure that it has a different name. So appearance. And appearance obviously needs to impact both of these models, which is, you know, going to require us to do partial duplication of what we're doing. Yes, let's change this to customize. And we can actually just make this normal. There we go. So we can just change this to text. I'm not going to have any other input values here. So yeah, just text. Customize. There we go. So in panel details, we're just going to duplicate class details, as we'll use some of it, not that much, but whatever saves time. So customize details. So this button, what it's going to do is it's going to turn on customize details. And let's actually make this more interesting. So we'll do a call conditions. We're going to add some conditions to this. So game creator, conditions. There we go. We'll drag those in. Active. So if a game object is active, which is customized details, if it's inactive, we'll set active customized details. And if it's active, it's going to close that. And there we go. So really simple. Now customized details will be quite different. So we're actually we'll actually have something similar to what we're doing here actually. So I'm going to copy over name, and then we'll pick night as the first one, paste as child, 0, 0. So it's going to be perfectly aligned. We'll drop that out, and yeah, there we go. So we can get rid of the next thing here, and then customize. That's just it. So the first thing we will customize, so we're going to do blend shapes. I'm going to separate muscle, size, and body fat. So muscle, you don't need an input field, but I would like it to be aligned. So what I'm going to do is game creator, UI, and we're going to do a slider. And the slider is going to be put here. So there we go. So 0, 0. We'll need to change the way the slider looks just a tiny bit. There we go. We'll just make it bigger, and that's it. You know, if you want to do more on UI design, please go ahead. Now we need some variables for this, so the slider needs to impact variables. So we're going to do muscle in creation. We're going to do size. And again, keep in mind, just you can follow along. If you want all of these to be separate options, just follow the same steps. I'm going to, with one slider, basically impact a group of blend shapes. If you want like fully customizable options, then you basically just need a slider per option. So that's completely up to you. You know, you just follow along the steps and you'll know how to do it. And yeah, we'll do body fat. And cool. So we created all of these. There we have it. So we have these options. Now we need to just basically store that in here. So this is going to be stored into muscle. Now, how much these values need to be, that's completely up to you. You know, that's whatever you want. When we actually inspect the blend shape manager here, you know, we see the values go from -100 to 100, and you know, as you can see, this is the impact it has. 100, in my opinion, looks absolutely ridiculous. -100 looks just weird as well. So I'm going to keep the values for muscle between -10 and 30. And that is my choice. You know, if you want more extremes, just put in more extremes. Let's rename this to muscle as well, by the way. There we go. So I'm going to do -10 till 30, because I think those are, you know, fine values and it should remain in that. Cool. Then we need those to actually impact something as well, of course. So we need something to happen. So in the description, you will find the custom action for Infinity PBR blend shapes. So make sure you have that installed, and you know, if you open the package, it should create this folder of your gaming. So and it just includes the one action, because that's all that needs to happen. Now, before we go and create all of that, I'm just going to finish up the sliders, because the sliders only just need to do this part. So we have muscle. The next one is going to be size. So size. The text should say size as well. And then we need to do body fat. And body fat. Now, one of the weird things, in my opinion, when it comes to the blend shapes, by the way, body fat should be from 0 to, I'm going to do 50. So yeah, one of the weird things with body fat is that for for the male character, the blend shape is actually called male fat. For the female character, it's pregnant. I find it really odd. They're supposed to have a similar-ish effect. It's just a weird naming. I'm not really sure why it's called pregnant, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, make sure it's impacting the right variables. And all these sliders really do is simply store data in a variable. So it's literally just going to store a variable number, and we can slide between those, and that's it. Now we need that to actually have an impact on something as well, of course. So I'm going to create a trigger here. Trigger, remove the sphere collider. And the trigger is going to be on variable change. So we'll start off with muscle. Then there's going to be a set of actions, and going to create this one first. Then we have another trigger, which is going to do, size, which I'll just duplicate the actions. And the other one is going to be another trigger, which is going to impact body fat. And there we go. So let's have a look at the first action. So the action is muscle. And basically what we need to do here is set those actions. So we go to RVR, IPB, infinity PBR body, that's what it's supposed to mean. And we're going to impact human male, because that has the blend shape manager. The first value is arm muscles, which is perfect. And then the global variable needs to be muscle. And that's it. So on change of the variable, arm muscle is going to be impacted. So we're going to try that first, just to make sure everything is working correctly. And yeah, that's it. Cool. So we have this open, and just to make sure it's actually working, yay, it's working. We're changing muscle, and as you can see, muscle density up, down, and yeah. Right now we only do the blend shape name of arm muscles, so it's only changing the arm muscles. And if you want to have everything separate, you have to do a slider for everything basically, and have variables for everything, which is fine. If you don't want that, if you just want it to be, if you just want it to impact the entire muscle group, which is what I'm going to do, basically every blend shape with the name muscle is going to be fit in that group. Now on the screen here, I'm going to display all of the blend shape names, and I'm going to, I'd suggest pausing the video, making sure you have all of these the actions in there, and then do the same for size and body fat, and make sure they impact the correct variable. Otherwise this video would just take too long with you looking at me copy pasting and just changing blend shape names. So it will take a short while, and after that's done we can continue. Cool. So yeah, as you can see, good reason why I paused the video, because it's basically just a lot of naming, and you might have even done it differently, created different groups. I definitely suggest messing around with those blend shape values a bit. But yeah, so for body fat, I'm doing these, and keep in mind this is all just for the male character, and I'll explain why just in a bit. When it comes to butt size, when it comes to size, sorry about that, we're changing all of these, including butt size. And yeah, that's, we're changing all these values. Now, it might not have the best look. I thought just changing these muscle variables actually had a really nice look. The body fat is a bit dubious, and size overall is not a perfect match either, but I don't feel like endless amounts of sliders. Now, we need to make sure that these are also included here, and that we're using the correct variables on change. So let's hit play. Cool. So when we change muscle, we see the overall muscle definition increase. So in the thighs, the arms, Maybe I should have included forearms here as well. Again, you know, when it comes to grouping, it's up to you. But I thought this was a pretty good tweak, pretty good group to select as a group. When it comes to size, you know, we can minimize this, maximize this, basically get some absurd results. But yeah, can look good. When it comes to body fats, you know, it's a bit of a weird one. You know, wouldn't do too much with it. But yeah, anyway. I think just you know, increasing fatness doesn't have the desired effect either. But anyway, that's up to you. You know, you can create your own groups, but it's really cool to have like these blend shapes, you know, selected like this. I really do appreciate this. It's really awesome. So we've done that now for the male character. And here's the thing, you know, we need to impact the female character as well, of course. And there's a couple of ways to do this. So basically, we can have, you know, we can have multiple trigger groups and, you know, etc., etc. The way I'll be doing this for this one is when it comes to customized details, just going to have male here. And the reason I suggest doing it like this is simply because, you know, for male, female, if you're going to turn this into a game, I would have different sliders with different groups, simply because, for one, they're just different blend shapes, and you know, two, you know, the body parts of male, female are just not the same. The impact is going to be different, and grouping it exactly the same is just not going to have the desired results you want. Trust me. So, but before, you know, we assign this to, you know, just to the male character and do some additional actions, we're going to make sure that this also includes changing hair color, eye color, and skin color. And in order to do that, I am using this asset, flexible color picker. It's completely free, so link in the description. That's why I really looked for a free one that did what I wanted. For something like this, I just wanted to have a free asset, basically. And the great thing, you know, with this tool is that it's simply a UI picker that can be linked to an object, to a mesh, and then to its material. So the nice thing here is that when it comes to saving this data, it will automatically be saved because you're actually changing the material itself, which lives outside of your scene. So that's really nice. That's really cool. Then the next thing, for the eyes, we will need to take some additional steps, as well, you'll see in a bit. And for skin tone, my solution is not perfect. I'll be honest, it's not a perfect solution. It works, but it could be better. But yeah, anyway, I'll leave you to mess around with that. Let's first actually set it up, and then you can decide for yourself if you like it enough, yes or no. So let's duplicate body fat here. By the way, if you want to have, you know, face blend shapes, just, you know, you'd have to have a lot of different sliders pretty much. So, you know, it will become a longer list, but the actions are the same. I'm not going to go through those steps because, you know, I don't see the need for that. But if you want that, it's literally just the same action we used for everything else. But you'll just need a bunch of sliders, basically. Cool. So first things first, when it comes to this, we're going to do hair color. And we're going to do an additional action as well that's going to move up the camera for it to be zoomed in more on the face. And you'll want to use that set of instructions as well if you want to do blend shapes for the face. So nice little touch. We're going to remove the slider in a bit. I do want to keep it for its proportions. But yeah, we won't be using that, and we'll do hair color. So the asset we imported is flexible color picker. It's literally just a prefab we need to drop in here, and we get this. And the nice thing is that it's you know, it's a complete UI element. It's just a UI element that we can completely rip up if we want. So let's unpack this prefab. I'm just going to call this hair color. There we go. And yeah, so now it will all be about sizing this properly. The elements I want to use are simply this one and this one. I want to give complete control over hair color, which is something a lot of games don't do. You have presets. I actually don't see why I would do presets for this. It's just so much cooler to have complete control over the color. I actually like that idea. So that's why we're doing a color picker like this. We're going to use the main picker, and we're going to use the H picker. Changing alpha value does nothing in this case, so we don't need it. It's really cool that it's there though, because for a lot of things it will add some value. But yeah, in this case, we don't need anything else. So I'm just going to get rid of everything else. Cool. Then we also have on the hair color script, we do have a starting color, and I'm going to put that to white. Now this doesn't mean the character, or just yellowish. The default hair color of the character can never be truly white. Please keep that in mind. That has to do with the albedo texture used for this, for example. So you can't actually literally change it to white with this texture. So you'll need to modify that texture in Photoshop in order to be able to do that. So something to keep in mind. Cool. So height of this entire thing is just going to be 80, like everything else here. Then background needs to be transparent, and we're just going to, oh, I thought it was 80. Sorry about that. It's 100. Yeah, let's move this as well. And then when it comes to the components, we'll just fit them in. 100 actually fits perfectly, I can see now. But you know, once we put on one below, it would just look weird. So I'm just going to make it 80 by 80, just a bit smaller. Looks nicer that way. So there we go. Again, this is not about design. You know, these are just UI elements. So get creative, make it your own. And this one here as well. Actually, I'm going to rotate this. So can you just do 90 like that? Minus 90. There we go. Yeah, this is some messing around. It's not perfect. So height, I'm going to do 80 as well. Yeah, there we go. When it comes to the UI, we don't need the label. So the label is something we're not going to use. And we don't need this. I don't think we need this. I'm not really sure about the marker. We'll keep it for now. We're just going to see if it actually fits. Not really doing this the way I originally planned it, but yeah, we'll see. Nah, I'm just going to revert it. Sorry guys, sorry about this. There we go. Let's just keep things simple and let's not mess around too much. Again, this is not about UI design, and I get lost in it anyway. So yeah, we will turn off the label. And when it comes to the slider, now it's time to remove this. So yeah, you'll need to do some work to make this look pretty, fully aware. But yeah. So that's hair color. Again, important to set a default, and the default is pretty much what it is now. Then we need to have something linking to this picker. So what we need to do is on the character, hair, you basically need to drop in a script. And the script is here in the example scene. So this is the script. So let's collapse this. You drop this, you drop in the script on the hair. There we go. You drag in the color picker, and I think that's this one. I should have just named this picker hair color just to separate it, to make it more easily identifiable. There we go. So we drop in this, and then for the material, it's just the material being used here. So we're going to drop this in as well. And the great thing here again is that this will just be saved as, you know, the hair color is project white. So that's pretty cool. Cool. So that's it for hair color. Now we need to make sure this works, of course. And if this works, we can just continue with the rest of it. There we go. And yeah, you know, it's working exactly the way I want it to work. So we can just, you know, pick the color we want, you know, variations, and yeah, you know, it's pretty cool. So pretty awesome. You know, complete control basically over colors. I do like that because, you know, why not? I mean, if you're gonna have character customization, why limit it? So I do think that's pretty nice. But yeah, cool, that's working. So let's duplicate that. There we go. We're going to do this for eye color now. And for eye color, we do need to take a couple of extra steps. That's simply because of the way the texturing is done in the materials of Infinity BBR. If you're aware, he has loads of different materials for you know, different elements basically. The nice thing is there's actually a really easy way for us to change that. In the description, you will also find a couple of custom textures I made in Photoshop, which you will need in order to follow along with these steps. But it's actually pretty cool. So this is now picker hair color. We're going to change that to eye color. And the default is going to be the bluish. It's by default. I think it's something like this. I don't know. It's blue enough. That's fine. Let's change the name to eye color. There we go. And we'll do the camera change actions in a bit. We're just going to finish up all of these fields. So we have eye color here. Picker eye color, just to make sure we pick the right one. And yeah, that's all of the important steps. For eye color, I want the same values, so that's why I'm just literally duplicating it. You know, I want the same options here. I just want complete control for eye color. I always hate when that's limited in a game. Often, you know, the eye color options that are available as presets are not bright enough, or they're, you know, just don't include the colors I would like to see. So I want to have control over this. So yeah, I mean, you know, a Souls game is a fantasy game overall, so why not? So we'll keep all of that the same. Then what we're going to do again is we're going to go to body this time. We're going to drop in that script. Which one is it? There we go. We can have this script multiple times, so don't worry. We can literally have it 3 times in a row to impact the skin colors as well. So that's really cool. I was actually afraid that wouldn't be possible. So we're going to go to the eyes, and then the picker is going to be picker eye color. Awesome. Now, here comes the tricky part. We'll actually need to change a couple of things, and I want to highlight that with the actual character. So the way the materials are set up is that the actual eye color is just is included in the texture. So if we would go to, you know, body, and we go to eyes, and we change this color to something else, you know, as you can see, it impacts everything. And you know, as you can see here, the blue of the iris is, you know, it's literally just included in the texture. And that's, you know, that's kind of a shame. That's pretty annoying. So you need to change materials, and then basically once you start changing materials, you're just going to have presets. Now we got really lucky because there's an additional eye reflection here, which we can use to do something else. So I'm going to go here. The default diffuse is 1, and if you drop in 2, you see different eye color. Now I'm going to drop in diffuse 0, which is linked in the description, which basically just makes the eye color white, of the iris anyway. And then here in eye reflection, we're going to drop in eyes whites. Yeah, sorry about the name, it's a bit of a weird name. So eyes whites, we're going to drop that in as the base mask, and we're going to pump up the alpha, and as you can see now, suddenly this becomes black, and if we change that to white, it's going to be just a normal texture. So this material is actually overlaid over the default eye material one here. So it's an overlay because it does reflection, and that's awesome because it's an overlay, we can actually use it to mask something else. So now when we go back here and we change color, we're literally only changing the iris color, and yeah, that's really, really cool. I'm just going to give this to white for now. So yeah, that's really awesome. It's an easy way to basically circumvent the issues we had. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that actually. So again, all of these are linked in the description. So once we change the color picker, it will just change the iris. So that's really nice. If you want to have like the option for glowing eyes as well, I also added in that zip file, I added a emission mask as well. And you can basically drop that emission mask into here. There you go. You can just drop that here. So emission mask here, and then you could make the eyes brighter if you wanted to, but you need a color. But yeah, it's not perfect. Should have actually excluded the black parts, but yeah, it's just open it in Photoshop and exclude the black part. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. But it's it's a cool idea nonetheless if you want to use that. Cool. So let's just get back to it. So yeah, we're doing eye color as well. Now obviously we're a bit zoomed out of that. It's a bit hard to see that far the eye color from that angle. As you can see, it's pretty far away. So I'm going to duplicate this camera motor. And this is going to be head, and the first one obviously would be body if you want to rename that. And then we're going to zoom in, and yeah, it would be something like, I don't know, something like this. Cool. It's going to drop a tiny bit the character, always keep that in mind, so that's why this is fine. So we have a second camera motor, so basically we need to switch switch between those. So let's get back to our canvas here, and let's take the entire canvas. There we go. So when it comes to hair color, eye color, and skin tone, we want to be able to zoom in and see that. I'm going to have that as a separate button that basically allows us to switch, a camera view, and we're going to put that here. It's going to be completely independent of these options you pick, which is incredibly difficult to do actually. Well, you could just have an overlay button, but again, I wouldn't recommend that. So what we'll do here is we're going to have two buttons. So it doesn't need to be in the UI, but it will be on panel character. UI, Game Creator UI button. Could actually do a toggle. I think we have the toggle option as well, if I recall correctly. UI toggle. Not really sure. Yeah, that could work. We'll just do a toggle. No, that actually doesn't look good. Sorry. We're just going to do a button. So game creator UI button. There we go. So the button will just have two texts, basically. Text 01, text 02. There we go. And then the impact, so in text 01, we can have 24. Let's do 20. Overflow, overflow. This will be far, or body cam, face cam. Yeah, that's fine. Again, 24. Overflow, overflow. Cool. So we'll have two texts. So the default is going to be the body cam, and then if we click that, it's going to switch. What we need to do here is call conditions. We need to create some conditions here. No need to name that. We could name this button though. So button camera change. And the actions will be camera, change camera. There we go. So first camera motor. So the first time we press, it will go to head, and the second time we press, it will go to body. There we go. And the conditions, we can just do a simple local variable here. Bool is going to be active, is going to be body. And then the condition is just going to check that bool. So local variable, drag in those conditions. So body, if it's true, it's going to be, if it's not true, it's going to be head. Yeah, okay. There we go. And if body is true, we're going to switch to this one. Then we need to change that bool here. So again, local variable. Might be doing this wrong here, but we'll find out in a bit. And then set active text 2, set inactive text 1. And yeah, there we go. So yeah, I might be doing this wrong. We'll see in a bit. Cool. So we have all of the conditions in place. It's just going to be a simple bool action here. And I think by default it should be turned off actually. Might be, yeah. Okay, we'll see. So cool, that's it. Now if we want a small transition time for it to look a bit smoother, that's fine as well. So we can do 0.5. But if you add the transition time, you need to make sure that the change is going to be the last step. So because otherwise this will pause, all of these actions will pause until this is over. So yeah, let's have a look. I think we set up eye color correctly as well. Let's just double check that. I forgot. Yeah, no, it should be good. Cool. So we have the body cam. Let's change this. So alignment is a bit off. Yeah, okay. So I did do a step wrong here. Okay, so I'll need to figure that out. That's fine. So at least we can switch. Let's have a look at those conditions. What did I do wrong? So should be the other way around, right? Yeah, okay, should have been the other way around. Cool. we'll change that after we close. So now we have eye color, and as you can see, we can completely change the eye color to whatever color we want. We can make it brownish. We can do we can do it all pretty much. So yeah, pretty cool. Complete control over eye color. Do keep in mind that this will change the material straight away. And the only reason it's going to reset once you hit play again is because of the default value we're setting in that script. So if you leave this scene, this will be the color impacted. So something to keep in mind. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Complete control over this is really nice. Now, the only thing that this would be a bit extreme for would be skin color. It's a fantasy game. It's not a science fiction game, so having blue skin would be a bit odd. So we're going to make a small adjustment here. So let's have a look. So we have eye color. Going to duplicate that. We'll change it to skin color. And you might actually want to do presets for this, because the solution I'm doing definitely is not perfect. But just to keep in the same vein of what I'm doing now, we can actually do something. So skin color, then pick our eye color. We're actually going to keep that just for sizing. We don't even need it for sizing. We can just get rid of it. We're going to go to flexible color picker again, drop in that prefab. And the only one we're going to keep is going to be this one. So that's going to be the V. So let's unpack. Picker skin color. And we're going to keep only the V. And the reason for that is because we don't actually want to change anything except for how the darkness of the color. And I know it starts with red, but that's because the default is always set to red. So we set the default to white, so it will just be the white. The only downside of this is that the darkest setting is just way too dark. It's literally pitch black, which is too dark. I'm fully aware of that. But yeah, it's there's some limits to that. Maybe you can change some of the settings. I'm not going to look into it that much. But yeah, it's a solution. But for this, you might actually want to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to do some presets, and that's fine. And by the way, presets would just be material changes. That's it. Cool. So we're going to do this white alpha, and the only one we're keeping is the V. Going to do 80 high just to make sure it actually matches with everything else we did. And I'm going to remove the label. There we go. So make sure you set this to white, otherwise the starting color is going to be red. That's not the impact we want. This to white, this one, sorry about that. Yeah, make sure to do that, because otherwise the starting color will be red, and it's just going to be really odd. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that would be skin color. So now obviously we need to make sure that we have that script on the body as well. So going to close this, collapse this, because otherwise it's hard to drop in the script. So drop it in once and drop it in twice. That's because we have body and we have it's in a different folder, and we have head as well, so that's why. So body, the first one, let's just do the first one, and then head is going to be this one. And the reason there's so many of them here is because these are all different skin tones. So if you do want to have just presets, which will be more accurate, I will admit that, In this case, at least, I wouldn't do that for everything else. You know, I do like the freedom of having complete control. For skin color, it just makes less sense. However, it's up to you. But yeah, you can just do presets and just do a material change. And that's it. So we're just going to reference to the color picker. So picker skin color, and yeah, let's give that a go. Let's make sure we change those conditions. Toggle here and toggle here. Sorry about that. And yeah, let's hit play. Cool. So as you can see, now the picker is this, and basically it allows us to change skin color. And you know, up until about here, I think it still works. It's just here that it just becomes, you know, too exaggerated. So maybe put a, you know, if you can put a limit, great. I'm not sure that's possible. If it's possible, that's absolutely awesome. But yeah, basically everything after that, just, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. However, until here, I think it's a pretty good slider actually. You know, it allows you to really change it. And the default skin color for male is a lot darker than the one for female already, which is a bit odd. But yeah, so on female we'll have a slightly different effect. So yeah, pretty cool. And yeah, you know, we can you know, completely completely change a lot of aspects here. Even muscle will be visible in this one. So yeah, pretty cool. So proper customization. Now here's the thing, and you might have guessed this, of course, is that you know, this is only impacting right now the male model, and we basically need to have the similar input for the female model. By the way, if you want eyebrows to be impacted exactly the same, I would do a different picker, because often, you know, completely blonde with blonde eyebrows just often looks different. So I do a different picker for eye color and for eyebrow color, and eyebrow color is on the body as well. Anyway, you get the gist. You know how it works. So pretty cool. Full customization. Yeah, and there we go. So now the last step would be to basically have this for the female character as well. If you want more options in there for female compared to male, or the other way around, you know, just add them. Because the way we're going to do it is we're going to literally duplicate this entire set here, and we're going to call them details female. There we go. And the reason for that is because of the whole referencing and scripting, it would just become way too messy otherwise. So what we need to happen is that once we press this button, we have, you know, some conditions here being set, which is cool. But it needs to basically do a bit more than just this. So that's what we're going to set up next. Cool. So in order to expand on this, what we need to do is we'll keep this the same. So this is not going to change. We just also need a check just to see, you know, if we selected a certain gender. So we're going to try to do that this way, and let's see if it works. Variable game object, global variable gender, and we're going to input these prefabs. Normally I would just resort to a bool, but considering we already stored this data, I'm just curious to see if this would do the trick. Then you know, it's going to activate that. Else, if it's already active, you know, it's just going to set this inactive. We don't need any additional details here, so we can duplicate this entire clause. And we'll have it here. Now, one of the important things always to keep in mind is let's copy this, but create new actions. Keep both, because otherwise you're just going to overwrite the action. So that's quite important. And then we'll do female. Now for this, obviously the condition would have to be this one. We can collapse these, and then for this one we'll just duplicate this as well. We don't actually need to change the action here. It's not going to do anything else. So if this one is active, we're going to close this as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have these customized details, male, female. So we're going to collapse. We're going to turn off both of them. And I just want to double check just to make sure this is all working correctly. Cool. So we by default, when it comes to the preferences, by default have this one selected, and it's not a clone, it's not a copy. So technically speaking, this should open up the correct one. Cool. If we switch to female, it should open up the correct one, and it does. So that's great. It means we don't need any additional variables. It's not closing, so we need to change that. But yeah, pretty cool. So no additional variables needed, which is really nice. Then when we go to the customize button, we need some conditions here to make sure it's actually closing. So if this was active, customize details, mail. Oh, okay. So it does need to be a separate action. Apologies for that. I wasn't paying attention. So create actions, keep both, and then close female. So yeah, my bad. Cool. So we have that done now as well. So we're opening up separate customized panels. So that's really cool. And then all we really need to do here in order to make sure it works on both is replicate the steps we were taking for the male body. So that means when it comes to, when it comes to the hair, which was active, whatever that was. So hair short, we need to add the script again. So let's pick that script, and we'll need to tie that again. So I do think it's actually the same material, so I don't think that actually changes at all. So, that's a good thing. And then we just need to link to the correct color picker, which is going to be hair color, picker hair color. And that's it for the hair color. When it comes to the skin color, same thing yet again. So picker eye color needs to be used for the eyes. So on the body, just like before, we need this script 3 times pretty much. So 1, 2, and 3. So we'll need to drop in those the correct pickers. So we're going to start off with eye color. So we can collapse that. That's fine. When it comes to skin color, picker skin color needs to be input in both of these. Then when it comes to the body, obviously we need to select the body here for this one, and for this one it will be head 1, and there we go. So we're all good there. That's all covered now. And again, just for the eyes, we need to basically we don't need to change anything because they're actually the exact same materials. That's absolutely awesome. I'm actually really happy with that. That saves us quite a bit of time here actually. So eyes, and we can just drop that in. I'm going to test this first. I just want to make sure this actually works and it's actually functional. Before we go to the blend shapes, let's make sure it's actually functional. So we have our first step. So I'm going to select female here, and that's actually not doing anything. And I can see why. That's my bad. Sorry about that. I didn't turn on the parent correctly. So there we go. So male, female. Okay, I disabled the wrong part here. So then when we press customize, these won't have any effect yet. But when it comes to hair color, that's working. Let's switch camera. eye color working as well, and skin color is working as well. So, okay, cool. That's all working. I'm going to select something a bit more neutral here. And there we go. So yeah, pretty awesome. That's all functional. So we're good there. Um, and this still doesn't close. So I need to see what I did wrong there. Let's actually have a look straight away so we can actually see it functionally working. So button customize conditions. So details mail. Okay, I see I need to change a couple of things here. That's fine. Cool. So let's do that straight away. Got a bit confused here. So let's have a proper look at all of these. So there's 4 clauses, that's correct. Details male active. This is this, then it should be turning that on. If details female is inactive and this. And I think we should be copying this over as well. Let's just copy those over as well. There we go. Details male and it closes details female. And it should all be working. So we'll try that in a bit. So we have that. Now the most boring part for you to do, and it's also going to be the last part, so you know, hooray, is going to be making sure that we have the right script for those blend shape values. And yes, that is definitely you know, definitely a lot more really boring to do, but you know, we don't really have a choice. So when it comes to female, let's turn that on. And then those are just the sliders are actually correct. So the sliders are fine. They're, you know, changing the variables. So it's pretty much just all up to our trigger here. So I'm going to give this a name because I wasn't able to find it fast. Blendshapes. There we go. This way we'll be able to find it easier. So we have, you know, these actions, action, muscle, size, and body fat. And yeah, what we need to do is basically duplicate all of this. So, you know, muscle male, size female, and body fat female. And yeah, the sliders can remain the same. We don't have to do anything there, unless you want to add additional details, of course, that's completely up to you. And then we basically need to reference the correct model, you know, for the blend shape. And as you can see, this is what went wrong. I didn't disable the parent. So yeah, when it comes to the female ones, we basically need to drop in human female in all of these, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, not the most exciting. Now, one of the things you will notice is that not all of the blend shapes are actually named the same, and that is a bit annoying. So instead of male fat, it's pregnant. Again, just a bit weird, bit of a strange one. And then let's do size. And then we need to have a look at, you know, some of the naming. So some of the naming of these blend shapes are different for the female character. So if we have a look here, you know, there's a lot of blend shapes for the breasts. So when it comes to breast size, I will add that, because as you can see, the chest size is not here, so it's basically just, you know, a different name. I'm pretty sure there are some additional ones. No, it's actually less of them. Okay, so I thought there would be more. There's actually less body blend shapes. But yeah, it's just not all called the same, which is, you know, quite annoying, to be completely fair. So when it comes to size here, so action size female. When it comes to chest size, we need to rename that to breast size. And I think for the rest, I'm just going to keep it. Let's just see how it will work. As you can see, there are obviously going to be some different settings. Waist width is still there. That's really good. The muscles should also be the same, so we're good there. Love handles is there as well. Okay, cool. So technically, we should actually be covered. Now we just need to make sure, obviously, that the trigger is, you know, executing both actions. So let's do that. Muscles female, female, and female. Cool. So let's give this a try and see if it's all completely functional. Cool. So let's change it to female. I should have closed that, but yeah, now it's working at least, so that's cool. So muscle, that's working. As you can see, you know, the impact is definitely different. Size, yeah, that's working. And, you know, again, I would recommend, if you're going to make a game out of this, to do separate a couple of the sliders, or group some things slightly differently. And we have body fat. Now, the reason I included the waist width and what is called love handles is because otherwise it really is just the belly sticking out, which is a bit strange. So yeah, that's the reason I did that, but you don't need to do that, obviously. So yeah, we can, you know, works pretty well. Definitely works pretty well. Cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this part. And you know, we're kind of done when it comes to the creator. If you want to add more, you know, you can do that. That's completely up to you. But for my sake, we're pretty much done with what the creator is going to offer at this point. Yes, we'll have stats later on. Yes, we're going to have, you know, armor later on. The only thing we really need to do right now is going to be making sure all of this data is actually loaded into the new scene. So what we need to do here, let's save this. Build settings. I'm going to remove all of these. Add open scene. I'm going to, for now, just do a ready button, just to have something really simple in here. So we're just going to have a ready button. I'll do that in panel options. Game creator UI button. Yeah, something here. Cool. So let's make that 50 high. Let's change it to ready. And what this button will do is going to be save game, and let's do a teeny tiny weight, 0.01, and then load scene. I'm not going to do load scene with player because we don't have a player here, so we're just going to do load scene, and the scene is going to be test scene, and we need to add that to the build settings as well. There we go. Cool. So let's head over to our other scene now. And we need to copy some things over, obviously. So when it comes to the customization, we just need to load in the desired prefab. We already set all of that, so we don't need to do anything there. When it comes to the variables, we're storing all of that data as well, so we're all good there as well. Color, we're all good. The only thing we need to make sure happens are the trigger blend shapes. So we're going to just copy that entire trigger, which is really nice. Then we'll go to our test scene. We'll add this to the build settings. add open scene. Now it can actually load. Then in our onStart trigger, we're going to just going to put it on top. OnStart character, let's just call it that. We'll change this to OnStart as well. There we go. Start. Start. And start. So we're going to load these values, and that's it. And for the player, what we need to do is need another onStart trigger. So we have the class conditions. We already did that, so that's really cool. Now we just need gender actions. Cool. Then we need to use the character action, or just model maybe. Yeah, there we go. Character model, player. It's going to be global variable gender. So there we go. We have that action. And I was actually wrong with this one. This shouldn't be here. So cut. Then we're going to open up our prefabs, and these are going to be part of the prefab. Paste as child was not the smartest idea, actually. I'm really curious, did I not copy this over correctly? So copy, paste as child. Okay, there we go. So onStart, maybe enable, just to be absolutely safe. Let's just do enable. And enable, there we go. And yes, we need to do the exact same things again. So this is male, so we don't need the female actions here for this one. Cool, so we can just remove those. But yes, you will need to, again, reassign the actual character. So yeah, a bit boring. This time I will fast forward, just reassign it in all of the actions. Cool. And let's copy this yet again, and you might have guessed it, do the exact same thing here. So again, fast forward. Cool, so we're all done there as well, so everything is set, and we can go back. So yeah, we basically have everything now. So I'm just going to go back to this scene, character creation, there we go, save. Now we need to make sure this onStart one disappears. There we go. So yeah, go back to this scene, save, and hit play. Cool. So yeah, I'll just keep male. Class. Oh, I should have disabled that. Damn, apologies about that. So let's do class first. So night. Yeah, that's fine. So night, male, customize, adding the muscle. Just to make sure it's actually working, I'm going absolutely ridiculous. And we'll do red eyes. Cool. Yeah, he looks off, but that's kind of the point. Let's add a name as well. And there we go. We're in our scene, and we have our ridiculous guy. So yeah, pretty awesome. All functional. So that's it for this video. A bit of a long video. That's why I added chapters, so you can just pick up, pick up where you left off if it was too long of a video to do at once. But I just, wanted to have all of this set so we can continue with combat in our next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.